Welcome to the Glass Half Full podcast, the podcast where we celebrate entrepreneurs that were able to create their own opportunities, and we evaluate their mindset. Do they see the glass half full or half empty? Today, we have Santi Padilla, a digital marketing entrepreneur from Ecuador. Welcome, Santi. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Dalton. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
My colleague Jake discovered you a few months ago through Instagram. Tell us a little bit more about how you became a digital marketing influencer, as you were originally trained for many years to become a tennis player, correct?
Yes. Well, I played tennis for most of my teenage years, and my goal was to go to the States and play college tennis. So finally, when I had the chance, I was able to move to the United States, and I played for a university in San Antonio, Texas. And while I was there, I was studying business administration, but my goal was that I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And, everybody has different motivations, but for me, like when I was growing up, I always saw how my dad was working so hard at his job, and the check was never enough. Like he was always struggling. So I knew that when I was in the States, like my goal was I want to have something on my own. So as soon as I was in college, I was trying to sell products, and I joined some companies, and I tried to sell on Amazon, and everything seemed to be harder than what I thought it was gonna be. And when I remember like my last year in college, I had been trying to be an entrepreneur with like 4 products, and the biggest obstacle I faced was that I didn't know how to get prospects. And to me, that was like a moment of revelation, because I realized that when you're an entrepreneur, you can have a good product, but if you don't know how to get the attention of people, you're doomed. So it's tough. And, I didn't get a class that taught me how to get prospects for a small business. Like we studied marketing for big companies, but not for small business. And that's how I started on my own, like self-education, reading books, buying courses to figure out how to use the internet to attract customers. And well, there were so many years, and then I started getting some results. I got back to my country. I started some companies here, and like 3 years ago, I started teaching these techniques, like how to do ads and prospecting and how to sell online. So I guess it all started because of a very big obstacle, which was like I didn't know how to get clients.
Mm-hmm. So once you were able to start finding clients, did you find it easier to develop what you were working on?
Yes, because, I think most people or most businesses fail because they don't have the skills to acquire customers. I don't know, have you ever seen the show? Probably you have, Shark Tank. Have you watched it? Yes. Like, I'm a huge fan of the show, and there are like 2 questions that the sharks always ask people when they come into the tank. And that's like, what's your offer? And then what's your customer acquisition cost? Like those are the 2 questions that they always ask, because they know that, the future of a business depends on how good the product is, but also the ability of the entrepreneur to acquire new customers. And when they see that there's not a good strategy, like they almost never invest. So to me, that's important, like for entrepreneurs, like have a good product, but also have the skills to acquire customers, because then it's like it gets easier. Most businesses fail because they don't know how to get new people, rather than like managing skills. Like that's something that you can adjust, but if you don't have a strategy to get new customers, it's pretty hard to make it.
Yes, definitely. I agree. You have your own podcast too, right? Tell us a little bit more about that and the reasoning behind it.
Well, when you are trying to sell your products online, like everybody knows that you have to build an audience, and also you need to have a relationship with that audience. Like they need to trust you so they can take that step to invest in whatever you have made. And for a while, like my main platform was Facebook. I had done a lot of campaigns there, and now it's like Instagram is like pretty much our main focus. But a year ago, I wanted to have a platform where I could share my message in a very sincere way. I think there's something special about podcasts, that is that you can connect with your audience at a different level. And it's different than a video on YouTube. When you're doing a video, you're trying to impress them somehow, like you're trying to like project energy. But when you have your podcast, it's like they're sitting next to you, and the people that listen to them can start trusting you at a much deeper level. So I decided to start a podcast. Well, the name is it's the Unstoppable Entrepreneur Podcast in Spanish. And what I did was I just wanted to show them what's going on behind the scenes of being a digital entrepreneur. So I would just turn on my mic and for like 8-10 minutes tell them like, hey, I did this worked, this didn't. And people started liking that. And then they started going to my events and buying courses. And a lot of people were like, I listen to your podcast, and like they feel like they're friends with me. So I really love the platform.
So you talk a lot on your podcast about taking that first step, the importance of being consistent, amongst other things. What are a few of your favorite mindset tips, and how have you managed to implement them into your everyday life?
Well, I think that the mind it plays such an important role when you're an entrepreneur, because most people know what they have to do, but they don't make themselves do it. If you want to sell online, or even outside of business, like if you want to lose weight, you know that you have to go to the gym or you have to start running, but somehow like we are kind of lazy, and when you're trying to build something online and you're on your own, there's nobody to push you to do that other than yourself. So what I have learned in my years as being an entrepreneur is like to force myself to give that first step, that it's outside of my comfort zone. Even like doing a live on Instagram, and maybe you're scared that you're not going to speak the right way, or doing a webinar or doing a podcast. At first it's hard, but like greatness is at the other side of being uncomfortable. So I guess sometimes we're waiting for the perfect moment. Like we want to be motivated. We want to feel on fire to take that first step. But I've learned that you just got to do it anyways, regardless of how you're feeling. So I try to put myself in uncomfortable situations. Like even like every day when I take a shower, I try to finish with a cold shower. So I'm feeling like, okay, if I can deal with this, I can do the uncomfortable things that are needed for me to go to the next level. So that's one thing. And also about the mind, you gotta like overcome limiting beliefs, which is something that I think holds us back. So for example, for a while, I wanted to develop my personal brand, but I look very young. Like I'm 30 years old, but a lot of people think I'm like 20. And I was always thinking like, nobody's gonna listen to me. Like I look so young, people are gonna make fun of me, and I'm gonna wait. And the waiting got very long. Like it took me years to get started, just because I was thinking that nobody was gonna listen to me because I looked younger. And then I realized one day that that's just how I look at myself. Like if I see myself as that, then I'm not gonna take action. So I think we have to be able to identify what is holding us back, and then realize that it's just a lie that we're putting on ourselves so we don't act. So I guess those are my 2 tips on mind.
Yeah, and I agree. Sometimes the biggest thing holding you back is yourself, and just taking that first step, initiating it. I've also heard that you've attended the Tony Robbins event. What were some of the mindset tricks that you were able to take away from that?
Wow, yes, I've been to 2 of Tony Robbins events. And the first one was in San Jose, California. So it was such a cool experience. And what I learned, or what I take from that event, like it was 2 things really. One of them is that you have to be able to control your state of mind, so you can do great things. Like most people go on their days like feeling down and they don't feel energy. And when you don't have energy, you cannot innovate. Like you cannot reach new people. You cannot create new things. And energy happens when you create movement. Like you have to build an environment where you feel energized. So at Tony Robbins events, like they put a lot of music and people jump, and then you tried all these moves so you can put yourself in the right mindset. So every time, like, for example, I'm going to do a webinar or a live, or even before I was getting ready for this interview, like I try to get on the stage, like I put some rocky music, like I'm a huge fan, and maybe like I'll jump a little bit and I'll get on that state, because I know if I don't force myself to be in that state, I'm not going to perform at the highest level. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, you pretty much are what you want to portray in a way.
Exactly. And you have to create an environment that allows you to perform at that peak. So that was one of the things. And then the second one that I really got from him, but I think he got it from another guy, which his name was Jim Rohn. I don't know if you've heard of him. But Jim Rohn is like the father of motivational speakers. Like everybody learned from him. And it was like success leaves clues. Like if you want to be successful, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like you just got to find somebody that is already making it, and then try to imitate his steps or her steps. And then you can, you don't have to take so many years to get to that goal because somebody else already did it. So I've been going through these years looking for people that are living the life that I want and trying to learn from them so it doesn't take me so long.
I love that. Imitating the success of others to become successful yourself. So you have your own mindset tips. You've been to a Tony Robbins event. How has all of this affected your work life? And how has it changed because of all this?
You know, for a long time, like if you would have known me years ago, like I lived 6 years in the States. And when I was in college, my last year, and I was taking these online courses, and I was seeing these entrepreneurs in the States that had their personal brands, and they had written a book, and they had these events, and they were living like the laptop life. And I was like, that's how I want to live my life. But I didn't give myself permission to do it. And I came back to Ecuador, and we started some traditional businesses. But even though my passion was like, I want to learn, I want to help some people, like I want to do courses and I want to do events and all of this, I was thinking that in order to do that, I needed to become like super wealthy. Like that was my mindset block, I guess. And it took me like 4 years to do my first workshop, like because I didn't give myself permission. So it's helped me like feed my mind with events, seminars, books. Like I love reading books. I love listening to podcasts as well. So I could believe that it's possible. You know, I think the mind, like I told you earlier, it's such an important factor in this. So it's helped me create the life that I wanted for many years, being around these people.
Yeah, and we've heard about some of that success. We've discovered you through Instagram, where you have over 30K followers, and you offer 3 online courses, including an Instagram secrets course. How did you manage to build such a big fan base in a couple years?
Well, you know, how we got into Instagram was like by chance, I guess. Like I had been doing live events in my city before we got into Instagram, and then in other cities in my country. And I was using just Facebook as the main stream of customers. So since I had been doing these campaigns for such a long time, we were able to do events for up to 200 people. Like there's some videos on my fan page, and it was awesome. Like people would go into a place where I would do the event for a week, like 4 hours every day. And that was like our main source of income, the events. And then coronavirus hit, and I think the world got shaken by this crisis, and we couldn't do events anymore. So now I needed to like look at the online world. But what also happened was that Facebook, like the organic reach almost died overnight. So I had a following there of almost 20,000 followers, but nobody would see my posts. And I knew that the biggest communities were on Instagram, but Instagram is not an easy platform. Like if you know people, like not a lot of people have big audiences there. It's very hard to grow. So we didn't have a chance, like really, because we couldn't do events with my future wife, like we were locked in our apartment, and we were like, okay, how can we grow an audience on Instagram? At the beginning of the year, we had like 2,000 followers. Like we were stuck there. And then every day that was like our main goal. And then we would have these boards and we would try everything, like do content and do ads and do everything. And then after about 8 weeks, we finally found like a system. And then we started growing super fast. Like right now we're growing at like almost, I think like yesterday was like 500 followers, like on average, like 250 followers a day. And well, more than that audience, what is better is like every week we are making sales, which that's more important. So I think that's good. You know, it's not such a big audience, but we just started. So I think that by the end of the year, we'll have probably like 50 or 60,000 followers. But the best thing is that we're using Instagram as a tool to acquire customers. And it was just like having no choice, because if we didn't make it work, we were screwed because we couldn't do our events.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like quite the dream.
Yes, it is. It's been tough, but now we're helping other people do the same, and that's what it's gratifying for me.
So you quit your dream job in 2017 to become an entrepreneur. How was that? How did your family and friends react to you leaving behind such a good job?
Well, I think I might correct you a little bit there. Like, I actually quit my job in the States in 2013. So I finished school, and then as an international student, I could work for a year in the States. Mm-hmm. And I was the marketing coordinator for a very wealthy and successful plastic surgeon in San Antonio. And I quit that, and then I came back to Ecuador. And that was one of the toughest decisions I could ever make, because most people thought I was crazy, you know? Because I was living in the States, which is obviously like the land of opportunity. You know, it's like the wealthiest country in the world. And I could work there because I had my papers, I had a degree, you know, I was educated, but I gave that up because while I was working, I knew I had a calling, like I wanted to do something else. And I came back to Ecuador to be an entrepreneur, and even my dad back then was like, why are you doing this? But I guess when you're an entrepreneur, you always do things different than most people would. And I never had like an issue with risk. And I decided to come back, and then we built these family businesses here. But in 2017, which is what I think you were mentioning, there was an economic crisis in Ecuador. And we had at that time 4 dancing studios. We had 2 gyms that we had built through Facebook, and we had a flower shop as well. And in about a month, we saw how sales dropped like 65%, like overnight. And when you have such high fixed costs like rent, and you know you gotta pay employees, it's tough to keep a business when the economy collapses. And in about 2-3 months, we had to close 3 dance studios. We closed 1 gym, and we went out of business with the flower shop. And not a lot of people know this, but at the end, I only had $30 in my bank account, and we were like huge in debt. We were in a hole because we had invested a lot of money to create these gyms and everything. And that was one of the toughest moments in my life. Like, I was feeling so low. But then my future wife, Pam, said like, hey, didn't you say like you wanted to do your personal brand and do your event? Why haven't you started? And then she was like, maybe this is the best time. Like, you have nothing to lose now. Like, you've lost it pretty much everything. And I remember this till this day. Like, we were in my room at home, and I had this board on my desk, and she took a marker and she put like Santi Padilla's first event. And I don't remember the date, but it was like 24th of July. And then she said, I'm going to help you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to make this happen. And that's how I started into the digital world, because I pretty much lost it all. And then we started, and then everything started going for us after all those failures.
Just because you got a little push.
That's it. And it was like, we got to make this happen because we have no other choice. And I'm talking about Tony Robbins. He has the phrase, he says, you cannot take the island unless you burn the boats. And that is true for me then. Like, I had no choice, and we worked so hard, and within a month we were doing courses, and then we started just growing from there. It just became my obsession.
So you went from being successful to an economic crisis destroying everything, leaving you with $30 left in your account and in debt, and having a small push from someone to be able to do what you've always wanted to do. Tell us a little bit more about the turning point where you realized that you can make it work as a digital marketer.
Wow, yeah. Now that you tell me, like, I got the chills. Like, it was pretty tough moments for me. And it was like, like sometimes we have dreams and we talk about these dreams, and it's almost like as if we are insane people. Like, I remember talking to my father-in-law just before we started the project of being a digital entrepreneur. And if you knew me years before, like every Christmas, like in every party, I would be talking to you about my dream of doing marketing online and selling courses, and that I wanted to reach other countries. Like, I was always talking about this dream, but it never happened. So like, you would talk to me in a Christmas and I said, "What are you doing, Santi?" And I wouldn't talk about our family businesses because it wasn't really my passion. Like, I was doing it and I was learning things through that, but I was always talking about this dream. And then next Christmas would come and I would keep talking about that. And then my father-in-law told me once, he was like, "You're becoming insane. Like, you need to or go all in this and figure out if it's gonna work. And then if it doesn't work, go get a job or do something else, or stop talking about it." And then when we started it, like I told you, I had $30 in my bank account and I had $500 credit on my credit card. And we went to this place where they leased office spaces, and it was like a co-working space. And they had an office for $500. And then Pam said, "Okay, I'm gonna give you half of it, you give half of it, and then let's try to make this work." And we locked ourselves in that office from Monday through Sunday from 9 to 11 for about 3 weeks. And it almost seems like it happened like really quickly, but for years I had been doing ads for the other companies and campaigns and everything. But within 3 weeks, we finished the product, which was this course that was gonna last a month. And that month, we ended up selling like $4,000, which was probably not a lot now, but for us was a game changer. We didn't have a lot of cost. The only cost was the rent for the place, and then I was gonna teach people everything that I had learned. But it was what I told you, like when we decided and we locked ourselves in this place, and I loved marketing, and it was like time was going in slow motion, and it just happened. And once you get that first result, you start getting confidence. And now you can try to improve upon that. So I remember we started with like groups of 4 people. And then I said, "Hey, you think next month we can start acquiring like 6 people?" And then we made it. And I said, "Well, I wonder if we can get 8. And then I wonder if we could get 10. So it was a competition against ourselves. And it just started like snowballing from that.
Do you find setting competitions for yourself and that setting challenges for yourself help you as an entrepreneur?
Yes, always. I think, because I was an athlete for such a long time, like I learned that the biggest competition is not against everybody else, but it's against yourself. Like, how can you improve? Because if you improve, the results come after that. So for us, it's almost like a game. Like, okay, the first goal, like as an entrepreneur, was like, how do we get to 6 figures a year? And then we made it 2 years ago. We started making that with the personal brand. So now our goal is, how do we get to 7 figures? So that's our goal. And then we know how much we have to make every week, and we're trying to fight for that. So it just makes it fun. I guess I'm a competition guy because I was in sports, and I always like to set goals. And like, I have a big goal, but then I have smaller goals that eventually will allow me to get to that place.
So I love that you like to set challenges for yourself. I like to set challenges for myself too. Like, can I complete this? Can I do more? How far can I take something? And sometimes that creates a lot of stress. In setting and trying to accomplish these goals, how do you stay positive and upbeat working towards your goals?
Yes, I see what you're saying, and I think what you mean is like, sometimes we're so focused in the goals that we don't enjoy the journey. We think that we're only going to be happy when we achieve that goal, and that can become stressful through the day. But what I do personally in my house, in my apartment, I have a board where I have like the big picture of where I want to go. And then I have a small board with what I have to accomplish within that day. And I try to celebrate those victories every day. Because sometimes when you're working for something big, you might be working hard every day and you think that you're not getting ahead. But really you are, because you are achieving small victories every day. And if you can be like grateful for that, you can start loving the process. And that is key, because to be able to get great things, you're gonna be in that process for a long time. So if you don't learn to love that, then you're never gonna get to where you wanna be. So I guess that's like more like an art that you have to develop within yourself, like loving every day. And to me, it's just having these small goals that we need to achieve. And once we do them, give myself a chance to celebrate. Maybe it's just going for a dinner with Pam and having a margarita or something like that. It's like, hey, we're not where we want to be, but we're better than yesterday. And that's great.
Of course, it's clear that you have a passion for helping others grow. You've had over 2,000 students. So how did you manage your work-life balance between this aspiring entrepreneur and wanting to constantly grow, but also finding time for your personal life?
What we've been trying to do is, there's a Spanish song. I don't know if there's an English version, but it says like, there are like 3 things that humans need to be happy, which is health, wealth, and love. Okay, so in Spanish, there's a song with those 3 things. And sometimes when you're working from home, you can lose that balance, especially when you have this fire inside, when you're the entrepreneur that started something. Like for me, it's like, it's hard to stop. So for a long time, I used to go long days. Like it didn't matter what time it was. I just wanted to achieve things. But then it's not very sustainable. So what we try to do is every day we wanna give the attention to these 3 areas. So health, which is our fitness. So in the morning, like we wanna do some exercise for at least an hour, because if you're not fit, you cannot perform at your business. So we try to get that in the morning. Then we're working for wealth, which is our business most of the day. But then we also have spaces for our love life, so our relationship. So, we like cooking, we like going to the movies, we like going for a nice dinner. And I try to do that at night. And if I can, give the attention to these 3 places, what I have found is that I can go harder on my job. Like, even though I'm not working as many hours, like next day I'm motivated to give it 100%. So that's what I try to do.
Wow. Personally, myself, I like to order food. I have it brought to me.
Cool. You like sushi?
I love sushi, ramen. I like them both. When I feel the pressure, I order food because I believe you can only perform as good as you feel. I like to think that. I want to change gears to helping the new entrepreneur. So what would you tell a new aspiring entrepreneur which avenue to go down, as there are so many possibilities?
Within digital marketing, like
Correct.
Being a digital entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think there's a few advices that I can give. So, for example, the first one is you gotta pick the right niche. I think that's super important. I think there are many people that choose the wrong path, and you don't want to happen in your life is that you spend a lot of time becoming very good at something that didn't have the potential to give you the life that you wanted to build. So there's a great book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Play Bigger, and they wrote it like these guys in California. It's a really, really good book. And what they did was they analyzed like I don't know how you call, like markets, and then They analyze that there are a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition, but there's always a company that dominates each market. And they call those companies category kings. So whether it's cars or renting cars or whatever, there's always a category king, which usually takes up to most of the market, like 70% of it. And what they found out is that it's almost impossible to beat a category king. Like if you want to compete against them, you're not going to make it. So why am I telling you this? Because if you want to go into the digital world and you want to be a personal brand and maybe do courses or whatever you want to do, most people, the biggest mistake they make is that they try to compete against the big guys. So it's almost as if I'm a coach and I try to compete against Tony Robbins, it's almost impossible to beat that guy. He's a category king. So what I've learned is that instead of, for example, becoming like an expert on digital marketing, which is a huge theme, specialize in something and become really good at that and well known on that subject. So for example, maybe you like, I don't know, you become the guy for Google AdWords. So now when people are looking for solutions, they're not comparing you with the guy that has 1 million followers because you have a solution for them. So I think it's very powerful to pick the right niche. And then how do you know it's the right niche? If it's searchable, like people are searching for answers. Also, you gotta have a story behind it. And if there are other people that are making money on it, like it's not very saturated, but there are people that are making on that niche. So that's the first advice. And the second advice that I would give people is that you need to understand that to get really good results, you gotta become more valuable and you gotta acquire some skills. And I think that a lot of people like go into the online world thinking it's the easy path and that you just are gonna work for a few months and everything is gonna be like roses, but it's not like that. Like figure out what are the skills that I need to acquire and then start developing them. So maybe it's learning how to do ads, learning how to communicate, learning how to do offers. And then once you develop that, everything starts to click. So I think those are my two biggest advice.
With a lot of markets, people believe they're all becoming very saturated. For example, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Facebook ad courses. What would you say to someone who is struggling with such a saturated market?
Well, what I would suggest, like you should read a book. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you read it?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Well, I think it was a game changer for me. But what it actually says is like, the market is like an ocean. And then people selling things are sharks, and then the clients are fish. And then when there's a saturated market, like you say, like the ocean is red because there are too many sharks, right? So if online courses on Facebook ads, there are like thousands of them, that's like a red ocean. So the key there is that you should create a new opportunity. You should create your own small ocean. So you need to offer something different for a specific audience. So for instance, for us, Instagram marketing, it's a saturated market, right? Like there's so many courses on that. And I knew that from the start. So if I went and competed with everybody, I was gonna get crushed. But then I decided to create a solution for a specific segment of the market, which was people that are trying to build a personal brand, like us. So you have your name and you're gonna build an audience and you wanna know how to grow on Instagram. So then our solution became how to grow and monetize your audience as a personal brand. Like if you have a painting company, I cannot help you. If you got a restaurant, I cannot help you. I can only help you if you wanna build an audience for your name. So what happened was that even though the market of Instagram was so saturated, when people saw our solution, we were their first choice. So to me, that's the key, is how can you create your small ocean where there's not a lot of competition and you are the only shark?
Wow. I really enjoy that you're not only sharing your own insight, but insights from others, from books you've read and how they've helped you. So what would you say are your top 3 books to help entrepreneurs?
Oh, I love reading books. I think that you can get so much out of them. I'm actually right now I'm about to publish my own book, And then it's such a hard job. Like, it's taken me months. So if somebody like took the time to put their years into a book, like, we should all take advantage of that. And there's not many people that are taking it. But I guess out of all the books that I've read, I would recommend, there's a very good book. It's called Atomic Habits, which it's crazy. Like, I just bought it and I'm about done with it. And the author helps you develop habits. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's all about what you do every day, but with science and stories. It's super cool. So Atomic Habits is one of them. There's another book which is called Expert Secrets from Russell Brunson. And that book teaches you how to communicate your message through stories. Like, how do you move people so they can become clients, and also how can they change their lives? And then I really, really liked this other book called Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell. Like, it gives you a perspective of how much effort it comes for those that want to become extraordinary at whatever they do. So I guess those are my top 3 books.
I want to go into a hypothetical situation now. Let's say you were beginning your entrepreneurial journey again. What would be a piece of advice that you would tell yourself or someone else starting from zero?
If they were started from zero, that's a cool question. You know, we're actually going to launch a challenge, and the hook of the product is going to be like, what if I lost it all? Like, if I lost all my audience and I need to start from zero? And, you know, in the digital world, what I would do different is, like, you have like 2 paths that you can take when you want to maybe sell courses or consulting or whatever. One of them is where you want to, like, you wait to become a super expert at something. So that's the path that I chose. It took me years to get to a place where I was like, you know, I've spent over $100,000 in ads. I'm ready to teach others. Like, I became the guru, okay? That's one path, but that one takes a lot of time. Now, the other path is that as you're becoming this expert, you can become like a reporter. So you can interview other people, you can learn from people that are ahead of you, and you can promote their products as an affiliate. So if I was starting from scratch, I would choose the second one. I don't think I would do the way that I did it. It took me too long. Like, I think everything would have happened faster if I would have started like my audience and I would have shared a message where, hey, you know, I'm so in love with this subject, which is marketing. I don't have all the answers, but I'm bringing all these cool people and come along and learn with me in the process. I think people would trust you more if you're sincere like that, rather than pretending that you're another person. So like, I would take on that identity of being a reporter, like interviewing people, learning from the big guys. And then I think a lot of people would like that. That would be my path.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. As I mentioned to you, this is the Glass Half Full podcast. And we like to ask the entrepreneurs that we bring here, do you see the glass half full or half empty? And why?
I always see the glass half full. Like, I think that people that are able to create success in their lives are the ones that, even though we're going through crises and even though there are problems, that's where they see the opportunity to create wealth for them. So for example, like, we're going through a very difficult time. Like, I know it hit the States, it hit every country in the world. This year has been awful, but within all this uncertainty, there are new problems that need solutions. You know what I'm saying? Like, with all of these problems, like, there are gonna be people that win during these times and there are gonna be people that lose. And the ones that win are the ones that are able to create solutions for those problems. So I think it's all a matter of perspective. Like, it's easy to get down when things are not going your way and to start complaining, but at some point you gotta realize that nobody's coming to save you. Like, you gotta take care of your future. And if you take on that identity of like being a victim and blaming others, nothing good comes out of it. So even though this year was tough, like for us, for example, we had to shut down our gym for good. And that was a big hit for us. But then I was like, okay, what are the opportunities? And you know what? This was the first year that we were able to reach people in more than 10 countries. Like, we were so shut down to Ecuador, and we would do our events here. But now we have students in Mexico, in the States, in Colombia, in Chile. And that would have never happened if we didn't have the crisis that we're going through this year. So we got to find opportunities where everybody else sees problems.
Wow, Santi, thank you for that insight. I agree. We can also find something positive from all situations.
I agree.
And we have learned a lot about you today. How can our listeners get in touch with you and follow your journey?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I think it's awesome what you guys are doing here and adding value to your audience. Like, I think that's super cool. And well, for people that want to join me, well, everything is in Spanish. So if you know Spanish, you're going to love it. If you don't, you might practice your Spanish. But you can find me on Instagram. The username is Santi Padilla Official. Or if you want to listen to my podcast, it's the Unstoppable Entrepreneur Podcast. You know, I have a friend in Texas. She told me, like, you should start the podcast in English. And I was like, I might. I love English. Like, I can get a chance to practice my accent, I guess.
Yes, you definitely should do your podcast in English too. Check out Santi Padilla on Instagram. Thank you again, Santi.
Thank you, Dalton. Have a good day.
And thank you to the listeners. This was the Glass Half Full podcast by California Intercontinental University. You can follow us on Instagram for more business, entrepreneurship, and personal development content on Instagram at caluniversity_edu, or go to www.caluniversity.edu.